EA says FCIQ made tactics smarter, but the numbers tell a different story, one that starts 100 million times smaller. In FIFA 23, the tactics system gave players real control, hundreds of sliders and instructions that added up to more than 100 quintillion possible combinations. That's a 1 with 20 zeros after it. You could shape every detail of how your team played. Then EA replaced it all with FCIQ, a framework offering about 100 million times less freedom. The difference is cosmic. In FIFA 23, your tactical freedom could span the distance from Earth to Mars, tens of millions of kilometres apart. In FC 26, it fits inside the narrow gap between two plastic seats on a city bus. The universe of choice has been compressed into elbow room. And those numbers are accurate. When every option across every formation is counted, the math holds up. EA really did cut tactical freedom by around 100 million times. It sounds impossible because our brains aren't built for numbers that big, but this isn't guesswork. It's a direct comparison between FIFA 23's layered sliders and FC 26's simplified system. Once you see it that way, you understand how much control the new approach quietly takes away. And that is where the real story begins. Because EA didn't do this for simplicity, they did it for control. In the FCIQ pitch notes, EA describe it as an overhaul of tactical foundations across the game that delivers greater strategic control and more realistic team movement. They present three pillars: player roles, team tactics, effectively smart tactics, supposedly giving players the depth of real football with the clarity of video game design. On paper, that sounds like evolution, but the reality is the opposite. The old system let you tweak defensive width, pressing intensity, players in box, build-up speed, dozens of dimensions. FCIQ narrows everything down. A few build-up styles, a handful of defensive approaches, and predefined roles that decide how your players behave. EA themselves describe it this way: player roles guide how every player thinks, behaves, and moves off the ball. And in the same document, they quietly admit, with the addition of FCIQ, the following elements have been replaced and are no longer present: work rate, player instructions. That line says everything, because what looks like simplification is actually just restriction. They didn't only modernise tactics, they removed your ability to define how players move. Here's the truth. When gameplay is unpredictable, measuring user behaviour is hard. When millions of players all use different tactics, every match becomes a new variable. But when you funnel everyone into the same handful of systems, EA gets data that's clean. Predictable player behaviour means predictable matchmaking. It lets EA tune difficulty, control frustration spikes, and manage retention with mathematical precision. The pitch notes promise that FCIQ would create greater variety and authenticity in gameplay, but the system itself reduces tactical variety. The variety now sits in EA's analytics, not in your hands. And there's another benefit that EA never mentions: server efficiency. Under the old system, every custom tactic meant a different data profile. Dozens of sliders and instructions had to sync between both consoles and EA servers every match. FCIQ collapsed all of that into a handful of preset flags. Smaller data packets mean less bandwidth, fewer desyncs, and faster matchmaking. It also means cheaper storage. When millions of matches log just a few preset IDs, instead of hundreds of variables, the data footprint shrinks dramatically. So the new system doesn't just simplify gameplay, it quietly saves EA money every single day. And that control has commercial value. When the meta is uniform, EA can design promos and player cards that fit it perfectly. Everyone needs the same attributes, the same archetypes. It keeps the economy stable and the store relevant. FCIQ isn't just about tactics. It's data infrastructure disguised as design. Every match you play feeds a learning model that builds a psychological profile. It tracks your tempo, reaction speed, and even how long you hesitate after conceding a goal. From that, the system learns your thresholds, when you're confident, when you're tilted, and when you're about to stop playing. Once it knows that, it can nudge you back into balance. A lucky rebound here, a soft matchup there, just enough to keep you engaged. It doesn't need to fix results, it just needs to manage emotion. And it doesn't stop on the pitch. Roles and playstyles feed the same loop, dictating how players behave and how you feel about ownership. The new Role++ system has already shown how a tiny symbol can collapse a card's value overnight. We'll come back to that in a future episode, because the psychology behind it deserves a deep dive of its own. FCIQ isn't football intelligence, it's data intelligence. A feedback network that studies how you respond, learns your limits, and keeps you locked inside the perfect engagement window. And this is also where the tactics guru industry thrives, because when everyone is stuck within the same narrow system, presentation becomes the product. The game restricts you, the creator sells you freedom. The illusion of discovery becomes the content. And that's why the gurus are bigger than ever. The system is the magician, and the gurus are his assistants, distracting you from how the trick really works. This was never about football, it was about control. EA didn't simplify tactics because players were confused, they simplified them because unpredictability is harder to monetize. When everyone plays the same shape, it's easier to predict outcomes, balance results, and manage frustration loops. That predictability keeps players engaged longer, and engagement drives revenue. So when your matches start to feel identical, the same 4-5-1s, the same counterattacks, now you know why. Your freedom wasn't lost by accident, it was redesigned out of the game. FCIQ isn't about football intelligence. It's about EA's intelligence, studying us, shaping us, and keeping us playing. Thanks for watching.